I am so grateful that we are here today, man, and New Year always represents a new start. It's time to start over. Whatever you failed to accomplish the year before, it's an opportunity to accomplish this year. And I truly accomplished a lot, I felt, personally. But there's so much more that I want to accomplish. And there's things that I started last year that I failed to complete. Anybody do that last year? You want to start something and say, you know, I'm gonna read through the Bible, or I'm gonna lose 10 pounds, or I'm gonna have a stricter diet, or I'm gonna learn to play an instrument, or whatever the case is. And you start on it. Maybe you buy the DVDs to P90X or whatever, or you start Herbalife and then you give up and throw in the towel. But today I want to inspire you, and I want to give you hope in today's message. And so next week, everybody say next week. Next week we'll begin a series called First Things First. And it's going to help us to understand biblically what our priorities should be. And so priorities, sometimes what we make a priority really isn't a priority, but it shows where our heart is at. And I believe that if we put the proper things in their proper place, it will help us to have a successful life. And so not just this life, but the life to come. And I want to make it to heaven. And there are things in my life that I must place in order. And so I must recognize what priorities, what takes priority in my life, so that I can, one day when the trumpet sounds, I can go up in the air, meet him in the air in Jesus' name. Luke 15:11 through 16. And I'll be reading out of the New Living Translation. It makes things easier than having to read out of King James and then have to reinterpret what King James was trying to communicate. So here we go. To illustrate the point further, it's talking about Jesus. Jesus told them this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of your estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, the younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land. And there he wasted, everybody say wasted, all his money in wild living. About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs, whatever he was feeding those pigs, looked good to him. Have you ever been so hungry that anything looks good? Amen. I have. But no one gave him anything. Today I want to talk to us on this thought. It's never too late to start over. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you today so grateful and thankful for this opportunity that you've granted us to gather together as your people in this place where your presence meets your people. I ask you today to help us, Lord. Anoint our ears to hear, our minds to understand, our hearts to hide your word. And Lord, let us put to action what we hear today. I pray, God, that you would anoint your servant as I speak your word, that I would not speak it, Lord, on my own behalf, but that I would speak it under the authority and anointing of your Spirit. I pray that your word would accomplish what it's been sent out to do. I pray that we would understand that no matter what happened in our past, doesn't matter our failure, what matters is that there's still hope for a fresh start today. I pray that you would bless us today in your powerful name, in the name of Jesus. And everyone says, amen. Do me a favor, pull out your cell phone. Thought you were getting away with it, but you're not. If you can take a selfie, of you and someone sitting next to you. And hashtag, as a matter of fact, check in to the Tabernacle. Check into the Tabernacle. Amen. In this story, we read about a man who has two sons. A man who has an older son, obviously, and a younger son. And the older one seems to be the one that follows the rules, the one that dad doesn't have to worry too much about. He's responsible. He takes care of business. He does whatever dad expects him to do. But he has a younger son probably with the wild hair, a little guy that lives on the edge, a guy that always pushes the bar and is always getting himself into trouble. The young man that you have to kind of look out for and be careful with. And so these two young men now grow up in their father's home, and the youngest one goes to his father and he tells his father, "Dad, I want my money. I want my inheritance. I want what belongs to me or what will belong to me in the future. I want you to give it to me now and not wait till you die." Now, I have heard many sermons on this topic about how it was a death wish on his father, or he wanted his father to die. But I did some research and I didn't quite find evidence to prove that point. But rather, I think what I was able to gather was that this young man was saying, "Dad, give me some money." And the dad probably in the hopes of seeing his son invest the finances into some new venture or new company or new something, was what probably the dad felt the motive was of his son to ask for his inheritance. And so the father agrees. He agrees with this. He says, "You know what? I'm going to divide the finances. Your brother will get his portion and you will get your portion, and that's settled." But this young man gets the money in the bank account, and so he decides to leave, and he doesn't stick to an area close to where his father lives, but he goes to a distant land, probably a foreign land, a land that is not of their culture, not of their ethnicity, maybe another country. And so he goes, and when he's out there, he realizes that he has no one watching over him, so he begins to waste his money rather than invest his money. The Bible goes on to tell us in verse 30 that he squanders the father's money on prostitutes. Imagine that. He wastes his money on temporary pleasures. This is what he does with his money. He chooses to go and spend and blow his money. He runs out of money. And when he runs out of money, he begins to starve. He's hungry. So he goes and he searches while the economy is bad, looking everywhere to see where he can find a job, somewhere he can work to hopefully at least make enough to have something to eat. And so he finds one. He finds one working for a farmer who has pigs, and says, "Go feed the swine, go feed the pigs." And culturally, for this young man, that was wrong, that was unethical. The swine were unclean. He shouldn't even be near it. But because he's so desperate in the situation he finds himself in, that he's willing to even go beyond what he knows is right. And though he had done that before, but it was different because he was enjoying it. Now he's realizing, man, this stinks, but I have no other choice. I must eat. So he goes and he works for this man and he feeds the swine, and finally gets to the point where he realizes, I am so hungry that even what I feed these pigs, I'll eat myself. So he finds himself in this place because of his decisions. Instead of receiving the money and investing it and multiplying it, he goes and he takes this money, moves far away to where protection is over him and guidance is over him and instruction is over him. And he chooses to waste what he's been given on foolish things to the point where he loses everything and he's on the streets hungry. He's broke, he's busted, he's lonely, he has nothing to show for what was given to him. Then culturally, he's in a place where he doesn't belong, like salt on a wound, and then willing to even eat what animals eat for the sake of eating something. Here he was at a low place in his life, in a place where he had never imagined he would be. He didn't think that his life would lead to this, in the midst of pigs, eating what they eat, smelling like they smell. When I had it all, here I am in the midst of poverty and stink and just a life of starvation. Can you imagine this young spoiled brat growing up, taking his inheritance and then wasting it all? Proverbs 29:3 says this, the man who loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but if he hangs around with prostitutes, his wealth is wasted. And that's exactly what this young man did. He wasted his fortunes. He wasted his inheritance. He wasted what was given to him. He took it for granted, and now he finds himself in a low place. He settles for anything, gets any kind of job, like salt on the wound, feeding pigs and eating what they eat. He hits rock bottom. Has anybody ever felt that way before? Like you've hit rock bottom. That everything you imagined that was going to happen and unfold just went the opposite way. Instead of doing what you knew you needed to do, you made other decisions, and you find yourself in a place where you lost everything that you had. Maybe it was a career. Maybe it was a spouse. Maybe it was your health. Who knows what it was, but it was something. And now you find yourself in a low place. That's where this young man was. And we don't know if it was a few days, if it was a few weeks, if it was a few months, if it was a decade. We don't know how long this young man stayed in that position. But all we know is that he got to a point where he remembered where he came from, and then he realized, I had it better than this. I had it so much better than this. Maybe you and I at one point found ourselves wanting something before it was our time, and God or someone gave it to us before we were ready to receive it. Maybe when we got it, we made foolish decisions. I've done that. Maybe it took us to a place where we found ourselves as a failure, and I've been there. All these temporary pleasures that we enjoyed because we had given something prematurely caused us now to realize that it was only pleasure for a season. And what do we do when we find ourselves in that position? Do we give up? Do we throw in the towel? Do we say, well, we'll settle here? It is what it is. Lo que será, será. Or will I do something about where I'm at today? Let's look at how this young man handled hitting rock bottom after asking his father for his inheritance, after instead of investing it, wasting it, after finding himself in a place culturally, religiously wrong and against what he was supposed to be living, but even eating with the pigs. He finds himself at a place called rock bottom. How does he respond to his situation? Luke chapter 15, verse 17 tells us, when he finally came to his senses. We have to reach a place where we aren't happy or satisfied. We have to recognize where we find ourselves and say, this is not good enough. If your marriage is struggling, say, this is not good enough. If your health is struggling, say, this is not good enough. If your kids are struggling, say, this is not good enough. If your walk with God is struggling, say, this is not good enough. If you're struggling with addiction, say, this is not good enough. This is what this young man had to do. He had to come to his senses. Man, the first step to recovery is discovering or realizing that you have a problem. Man. You know, I think back, and I thank Brother Jesus and Sister Jezere for their desire to get married on a hill up high. I knew I was fat, but I didn't know I was fat, that fat. I mean, I didn't like taking pictures, and I still don't now. But even worse then, but even when we climbed up that mountain, the first 5 seconds, I was already huffing and puffing, dripping sweat. I don't know, we lasted like 45 minutes and we didn't even make it all the way to the top. I thought I was gonna die. I'd call the helicopter, get everyone here, because I should have brought an oxygen tank, I don't know. And at that point, I came to my senses and I realized there's a problem here. Bro, you're not even 36 years old or 37 years old, 36 years old, and here you are, can't even climb a hill. And so I came to my senses and I realized that if something didn't change within me, then this was going to be my life story, and I was only going to get bigger, I was going to get unhealthier, and I was going to find myself sick later on in life, and then trying to fix everything that I could have fixed when I was younger. That's what it means to come to our senses. We have to reach a place where we aren't happy or satisfied with where we are at that present moment. But he didn't find himself just unhappy and unsatisfied. But he said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare. In other words, he recognized what he had been given and what he had given up. He recognized what he had at home. Sometimes we don't realize what we have until we lose it. We take things in life for granted. We take our family for granted until they pass away. We take our finances for granted until we run out of money. We take our health for granted until we're finding ourselves sick. We take our spouses for granted until they're ready to walk out the door. We take our kids for granted until we find them doing things that we think they shouldn't be doing, but because we've neglected them, that's what they're doing. We take our church for granted because it'll always be there. And so we say, well, we'll show up when we want to show up. We take things for granted. And this young man realized, he came to his senses in the midst of rock bottom and said, I had it so much better at home that even the servants that served my father had enough food to just toss. And here I am eating with pigs. Dying of hunger, he says. He realized what state he was in. Do you realize where you're at? Do you recognize where you're at mentally, spiritually? Do you realize where you are in health, in your relationships? Do you recognize the condition that you're in? Because in order for you to get better, you have to come to your senses. You have to realize what you're losing out on. And then you have to realize where you're at that very moment. Can somebody say amen? Amen. He goes on to say, I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me as a hired servant. In other words, he said, I'm going to go back home to dad. I know I messed up, so I'm going to humble myself before him. I know that because I failed him. Why? Because he wasted his money on pleasures that were temporary. Now he didn't bring joy, but he brought shame to his family. And he said, I don't even need to be a son anymore. If he could just give me a job, I'll take it. He developed a plan. He came to his senses. He recognized what he had given up. He recognized where he was at the moment, and he put together a plan. I wonder how many of us have found ourselves in a place similar to this young man. Maybe we felt as if we had gone way too far and have just said, it's too much to try to get back to where I need to be, so I'll settle right here. But we can learn from this young man that if we at least come to our senses, if we at least acknowledge what we had, and then where we're at, and then put together a plan, we can get ourselves out of the situation that we find ourselves in. Because I want us to understand that we do have a heavenly Father waiting for us to come back home. We do have our spouses that are waiting for us to get our life back together again. We have our kids that are waiting for mom and dad to make time for them. We have broken relationships that are waiting for us to acknowledge our mistakes and get things put together and put in their proper position. Can I tell you today that there is hope, that we are not too far gone, but we are willing. If we are willing, we can start all over. Turn to your neighbor and tell them it's not too late to start over. I wonder how many of us have found ourselves at rock bottom. You hate your job. Have you ever hated your job? Do you hate your job now? I've been there. But I thought there's no way for me to get out of here. Have you ever felt unhealthy? I got 2 hands up for that. Your marriage feels like there's no love in it. I'm here because the kids are here. I'm here because it's cheaper to keep her. There's no love in my relationship. Maybe your kids are acting crazy. They're acting crazy. I try to live right. I try to live pure. I try to do the right thing, but I always seem to fall short. I'm not where I thought I should be today in life. Maybe you find yourselves there. Like the younger son, you came to your senses and recognized where you were. We realized that our decisions have all added up to the life that we have today. The truth is that every decision we make makes us who we are today. Every decision. Every decision. From the smallest thing, like adding carbs to your diet today, will equal diabetes 10 years from now. It is. It is. Or like men, like having friendships of the opposite sex. And before you know it, it's just a friendship. And before you know it, it develops into something so much worse than you had ever imagined. I'm talking to us today. Because I want us to understand that we might find ourselves in a position where we hit rock bottom. We didn't intend to get here, but here we are in this place, in this position where we weren't supposed to come this far. We weren't supposed to lose all that. And we realized what we had at home was so much better. We hit rock bottom and we think, maybe it's too far. Maybe I've gone too far. Maybe I've gone too long. Maybe it's too late. But God is saying to someone here today, it's not too late to start over. God wants you to understand in this year of 2020, it's a great opportunity for you to leave everything in the past behind, make things right in your life, and begin to march forward, because it's not too late to start over. It's not too late. It's not too late. So the Bible goes on to tell us, verse 20, he returned home to his father. You see, we can come to our senses. We can recall what we had. We could recognize where we are today. We could put together a plan. But if there's no action, then you stay stuck where you're at. Want to get healthy? Don't just recognize it. Don't just realize what it used to look like 10 years ago. Don't look at it with the scale and say, oh my God, where am I at? Don't put together a plan and go see Jim and not go follow up with him afterwards and follow the plan that he gives you. No. He went home to his father. Inaction is accepting your current situation. Sometimes we don't act because we fear failure or rejection. There are times when I've had to make things right, but I choose not to because I fear failure or rejection. What if they don't accept what I have to say? What if they look down on me from this point forward? What if we can't reconcile? What if I lose this or lose that? There are risks to take, but with great risk comes what? Great rewards. So he returned home to his father, not knowing what his father's reaction would be. And while he was still a long way off, here comes son. Raggedy clothes, smelling like pigs, all sucked up, skinny. Long hair, don't care. Just coming home. And his father saw him, and filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son and embraced him and kissed him. Mijo, I love you. We will never know what will happen until we make a move. You'll never know what your result, your outcome will be until you step out and do it. And his son said to him, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you. He confessed his mistake. And I am no longer worthy of being called your son. He humbled himself. James 4:6 says this, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And his father's response was this, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. And kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for this son of mine was dead and now returned to life. He was lost, but now he's found. So let the party begin. Can I tell someone today that it's not too late to start over? There are people waiting on you to start over. There are people that are around you cheering you on, saying, come on, recognize where you're at. Come on, get things in order. Come on, recognize your mistakes, confess them, become humble, be teachable, get up and start all over. Put things into place and into action, because if you start over, we're waiting for you to come back home. Husband is waiting for you to get things right, wife. Wife is waiting for you to get things right, husband. Kids are waiting for you to get things right, parent. Can I tell someone today, it's not too late to start over. Start over today. Start over right now. Say, you know what? I will do whatever it takes, because it's not too late to start over. It's not too late. The younger son found himself at the lowest point of his life, abandoned by all those he called his friends, because he ran out of money. In the worst place he could be, he came to his senses. He remembered home. He recognized where he was. He put together a plan. He put to action his plan. And what happened? He was accepted and given a party. Can I tell someone today, it's not too late to start over. In the Bible, there were several people that started over. God was one of them. God started over with Noah when everyone else was rejecting God. God started over with Abraham and said, everyone else is not following Abraham. I'll choose you and your seed to put my name upon. God started over with Moses, and he led the people out of Egypt. God started over with Job, where Job lost everything, his wealth, his health, his children, but was given double. God started over with Joshua, who led the people into the promised land because the generation before didn't believe to cross over. God started over with David when Saul rejected God. God started over with Jesus when Israel rejected the Messiah. God started over with the church because Israel continued to refuse to believe that Jesus was Messiah. And it's over, and it's never too late to start over for you and for me. The Bible is full of starting over. Sister Irene would always say, as long as there's breath, there's hope. It's never too late to start over. Today, if you find yourself in this new year saying, I want a do-over, I want to restart, I want to start over, then I want to encourage you that today is a great day to start all over. We've all found ourselves in a place called rock bottom at one point or another. Maybe we're there today, but I want you to know that it's not too late to start over. Last week we talked about out with the old and in with the new. We talked about how we can't be old skins and expect new blessings in our lives. We can't be old mindset and expect new favor of God. And I compared it to a person who wins the lottery and is given abundance of money, but not given the tools to manage the money. And they blow it and are bankrupt within 5 years. Something that happened in the mind of this young man was this. He realized where he was and he said, something's got to change. He had a change in mindset. When he said, I have sinned against you and heaven. He became a new skin. So when he came home, his father was able to love him and lavish him and embrace him. Say, come on, let's throw a party. I believe the father recognized his son's change of heart. He recognized his son's humility. We're the image of God. We're made in the image of God. And so just like God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble, this father practiced the same thing. He would resist them if he came back proud. You better let me back in. You better pay my bills. You better take care of me. But no, he recognized that his son said, Daddy, I've sinned. I've messed up. I've disappointed you. I've fallen short. I can't tell you how powerful confession and repentance is. If this new year you truly want a better year, you truly want to start over, it begins by repenting, recognizing where you were, saying, God, I've fallen short. God, I have sinned. God, I'm so sorry. Maybe you hit rock bottom in your health. Maybe you need to apologize to yourself. Self, I'm sorry. I've abused you. I've eaten what I wanted. I don't do any exercise. I haven't been active like I know I should be. Maybe it's your spouse. Baby, I'm sorry. I haven't respected you. I haven't loved you. I haven't been there for you. I've given you all the burdens. I've been expecting you to do everything. Maybe it's time to confess and repent. Maybe it's your children. You haven't been giving them the attention that they require. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry, daughter. I want to make things right. I want to create memories with you. I want you to know that I love you. I want you to know that I'm here for you. I don't know what you need to start over, But I can tell you that it's never too late to start over. Let this Sunday be the day where you hit the reset button and you start all over again. These altars are open. And if you want to start over today, you don't have to confess anything to me. You don't have to confess anything to anyone else. You just confess that to God. And if you need to make something right with someone else, make it right. Because there is freedom. There is restoration. There is hope. There is new life when you do that.